An army of orange and yellow on a mission to complete all outstanding jobs in Newcastle by the end of the day. It's been 11 days since the East Coast low first hit the region, but spirits are still high among these 500 SES, RFS and National Parks and Wildlife volunteers. Some coming from as far as South Australia, the ACT and Tasmania to lend a hand.
Some of the horrific trees that have gone through houses is unbelievable. I was just saying to the troops earlier that some of the jobs we've just been personally to would have made our news in Tasmania. Colossal size of the trees.
Most of the remaining jobs involve removing fallen trees and ensuring roofs are secure.
That way the citizens can return to some sense of normalcy and we can future posture ourselves for weather events that are coming in over the weekend.
With heavy rain and dangerous surf conditions predicted overnight and tomorrow, residents are being urged to steer clear of floodwater and be prepared.
We want citizens to make sure their homes are ready, that gutters and downpipes are cleared, that any loose items they have in their backyards are secured.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
Open for business, all that's missing are the people. De Bertoli Wines at Becolban was one of the worst vineyards hit during last week's superstorm.
We had water throughout the entire building, the winery, barrel room, cellar door, and also we've lost about 4 acres of vines as well.
It took 6 days before staff were able to reopen the cellar door, and now what would usually be one of the winery's busiest days is anything but.
It's very quiet, yeah, we do need them to come back.
Visitor Centre Manager Jane Holdsworth says there seems to be a misconception among travellers the area is a no-go zone.
I think people think we're all flooded and they can't get here, but actually all the roads are open and we are really open for business.
In the past week, there's been a spate of cancellations, sparking a call for community support.
The best way to get over any natural disaster is to actually come and boost the economies of those areas that have been hit.
Steve George from Tulloch Wines says in most cases it was only a matter of days before vineyards were able to get back up and running.
Local SES are great around here, so as soon as the trees are all cleared from the roads that were being blocked, we're back open and trading on Friday.
He believes in many ways it was lucky the storm hit when it did.
Vintage is over, the grapes are all harvested, so actually the rain is in a way quite good for the vineyards at this time of the year.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's all about the weekends, about the sick leave, about the holidays, about all those benefits that unions have fought for over the decades.
On a wet Saturday, Bear Park was where the only action was. The home side got out of the blocks early, Troy Hearfield providing an unlikely chance, his cross nearly getting more than he bargained for. While on the left-hand side of the park, Paul Clout found room with a goal in sight, but lacked finish. While only being offered a youth team contract by senior coach Phil Stubbins earlier in the week, Nick Cowburn looked keen to impress. Some good lead-up work soon after forced Western's Carl Thornton to scramble off the goal line. Jake Edelson's run into the box saw him beat Western keeper Tim Pratt, but he ran out of room. The visitors took the lead straight after the break with this Thomas Walker effort. It was the Peter McGuinness coach side handling the heavy conditions better as opportunities continued. The Bears looked to level up and went close as Jake Milstead provided clout, who skewed wide. The Jets youth went a man down when captain Reece Papadimitriou was shown red for this second bookable offence. 2 set pieces saw the Bears go close, first from Nathan Morris. The other saw Rob Macbeth miss from close range. While Walker should have doubled his side's lead, as well as his own goal tally. Jamie Sabat had the final chance to equalise, but it was the Jets youth who held on to record a 1-0 win. Michael Kane, NBN News.
Maitland is transforming, and those behind the new face of High Street have united to ensure they're here for good. In an attempt to stand out from the crowd, Twig and Moss, Hush Boutique and Maitland Regional Art Gallery, along with Marmuk and Pum Pums and Sect Hair and Body, have organised a shop hop ahead of Mother's Day.
The mall tends to cut Maitland into half. So we're hoping now with the reopening of the mall one way that will bring a lot more people that would not normally come down to this end of town.
It's a bustling, beautiful heritage city, and we're very excited to work together.
From 5 p.m. Thursday, the businesses will offer discounts for those participating in the event. Tickets are free in the hope of attracting more people back into the city centre following a fortnight of flooding.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Customers couldn't come to us, we couldn't get deliveries, staff couldn't get in, so we pretty much had to close for the whole week. It was pretty devastating.
Tucked away in Hunter Street, Hush Boutique is looking to boost its profile.
We have European brands and some Australian labels that are exclusive to the area.
Something Sect Hair and Body achieved in last year's event.
We've had return business since then, so that's really great.
Tickets are available from the participating venues. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's the 4-week program expected to make a big difference to the lives of refugees and new immigrants now living on the coast. Created by the Cooks Hill Surf Lifesaving Club, it's about helping people from different cultures understand the surf.
Most of the deaths, the drownings that happen in New South Wales or throughout Australia are predominantly from refugee and immigrants.
While conditions weren't ideal today, 20 people of all ages hit the sand for their last session. They've learnt everything from basic water skills to why it's important to swim between the flags, and just as crucial, the theory side of things, such as understanding signals.
It's all foreign to them. We take a lot of these things for granted here in Australia, that we have a basic knowledge of them, but many of these people have never been in the water in their life.
Mohammed Reza has only been in Australia for 16 months. The sessions have given him valuable life skills and also a sense of community.
I really want to be part of this club and part of this community and go to the beach and swimming and enjoy.
While for Zaka Kandi, it's been a life-changing experience. He'd been in Newcastle for 10 years without venturing into the ocean.
I feel more confident, but I think I'll do more of these ones. We've got a really good team of surfers here who are very helpful. So yes, I will definitely continue doing it.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News. Cold, wet and windy, conditions that don't bother the Merryweather mackerels or stop a tradition now 43 years old. After being led down to the baths, it was time to jump in. 45 mackerels turned up today for the first swim since the baths were redeveloped.
We were out of the pool last year. We didn't have our pool while they were doing maintenance, so this is our first swim as a group for about 18 months.
By the middle of June, about 25 will race in chilly temperatures of about 14 degrees.
Our motto is friendship and fitness, and we just like to get together as a group.
The oldest mackerel is now 98. While a case of pneumonia stopped Alf Carpenter from jumping in today, he'll be back soon.
I believe the human body needs a certain amount of exercise every day, and I make sure I get that. The cold water doesn't bother me. I've been in some cold water in my day.
As for today, the report on the temperature was mixed.
No, it's actually quite nice in the water. It's a lovely day to start.
Oh, it's so cold. It's freezing. Hopefully next week it warms up.
No doubt it makes the hot soup waiting for them afterwards taste even better. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
We're raising money for the family, for their medical needs, and also just for the family unit so they can spend time together as they go through this really harrowing time.
Joey Leilua will be back in Newcastle colours this week, fresh from helping Samoa to a win over Tonga. But will he be in red and blue next season? Despite having a contract that runs until the end of 2016, it's been reported the 23-year-old will ask for a release to play with the Raiders next year. Leilua has a clause in his current deal that allowed him to become a free agent if Wayne Bennett left the Knights. Meanwhile, there are also reports skipper Kurt Gidley will this week announce he'll move to the English Super League next season to play with Warrington. The potential move of both players is likely to help Newcastle accommodate the recently re-signed Matautia brothers and boost the chances of Newcastle retaining young fullback Jake Mamo. Still on league, and Corbin Sims has completed a great audition for a State of Origin berth with Queensland following a standout performance for Fiji against Papua New Guinea. Sims, who has nominated to play for the Maroons despite being raised in New South Wales, made 36 tackles and made 160 metres. In a twist, his brother Tarek has given himself every chance of playing for the Blues after his efforts for country this afternoon. Looking for his third straight podium, Aaron Russell was in the mix in race 1. Having qualified in 7th for the first of the 3 races, the Novocastrian motorsport driver put up a great fight to eventually finish 5th. Things were looking even better in race 2. Unfortunately, a run-in with Shay Davies on lap 22 blew one of Russell's tyres and he was forced into the pits, ruining his afternoon. Onto 2 wheels and Chad Reed was back in action for the final race of the American Supercross Series. Having sat out last weekend because of a shoulder injury, the Australian qualified 3rd in Las Vegas and was soon in a battle for the podium. Unfortunately, tyre trouble also came into play for the Australian as he dropped back into 7th. Still good enough to see him finish 4th overall for the series.
Puppy killer Nathan Thompson back in court to learn his fate.
Mr. Thompson, are you sorry for what you did?
In March, he bashed 9 dogs to death in bushland near Kurri Kurri. On hand to welcome him today, a group of animal activists. The large level of interest in the case prompting an exclusion zone around Newcastle Court.
It was a premeditated act, it was abhorrent, and we won't stand for it.
Inside, the court heard Thompson had taken ice 3 days before the incident, which he was still affected by at the time, something the magistrate refused to accept as an excuse. The 25-year-old's defence lawyer also argued his client is an uncomplicated man who in his own mind thought this was a way of killing the animals quite quickly, adding that Thompson deeply regrets what took place and in hindsight would have dealt with things differently. The prosecution pointed to the post-mortem report that described the injuries the puppies received as catastrophic, arguing the totality and brutality of the attack is at the top end range of this offence. Thompson was slapped with an 18-month jail sentence, 12 months non-parole.
Magistrate Robert Stone described the incident as a senseless and cruel act that the community as a whole would find deplorable. He also doubted Thompson's chances of rehabilitation.
Thompson cried and said, "I love you" to his family as he was taken away. The sole survivor of the attack, called Lucky, is now in foster care and will soon go to a loving home. But it remains one of the worst cruelty cases the RSPCA has ever seen. Today it welcomed the message the jail sentence sends.
It was hard to hear, what went on and find out more details as we went along. And I know a lot of my team sort of had a little bit of a difficult time through that.
Activists at the court also seeing it as a victory. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
A moving Scottish-themed service for a very Scottish woman. 68-year-old Robin McDonald, well known in Dungog through her work with the RFS and SES, died in her Hook Street home after it was inundated by floodwater.
She was a person everybody liked. She had strong opinions. She was only about 5 foot tall and very tiny lady, but very strong.
While still very much mourning the loss of 3 of its members, the community has been trying to return to some sense of normal life. But that remains a long way off for Tim Irwin, whose family business, which has called the town home for 68 years, was all but wiped out.
It's very daunting to see the volume of water come here and do so much destruction.
While the number one priority at this stage is the clean-up, it's feared much needed infrastructure projects like this one will be put on the back burner.
Main Road 301, which was meant to be finished, the work on it by the end of next month. We've had a discussion with the Minister. it's not going to be finished in time.
The council says it needs more support from state and federal governments to help meet mounting infrastructure costs. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
There has been an improvement in the design of it, so it actually will look better, but there are still concerns about traffic issues, about drainage issues, about density, about the way that it interacts with open space.
The Hunter now boasts one of the state's newest and largest blood donation centres. With free parking, longer opening hours and 4 additional beds, the service hopes the Lambton Road headquarters will attract new donors.
We are seeing an increase in the need for blood across Australia, particularly for plasma, which is the part of blood, liquid gold, made for about 18 different life-saving medications, and this centre is really going to be geared to meet that demand.
Sue Oakey from Bolton Point was the first through the door on opening day.
I've been giving blood since I was 18, so that's a long time and I'm not adding it up. But I do it because I can. You know, I'm so lucky to be healthy and we need the blood and the blood products so badly.
Members of the Cummins family know that all too well. They say they're beyond thankful for plasma donors such as Sue. Their gorgeous 9-month-old son Austin has severe type A haemophilia.
I'm always begging people. It's a lifelong thing for him and he's going to need blood transfusions, plasma products his whole entire life.
He relies on plasma-based medication via an infusion 3 times a week at home. Austin and his mum are among several Novocastrians adorning the centre's walls, all alive due to blood donations.
Yes, very exciting. Get to see us before you walk in and hopefully it urges more people to donate.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Mark Hughes wears his beanie with pride. Especially so after this incredible moment. Carrie Bickmore dedicating her award to her late husband Greg and everyone else battling brain cancer.
A bit emotional actually. It was just fantastic to see her get up and acknowledge that. And you know, brain cancer is something that doesn't have the awareness and the profile of some other cancers, but it certainly does a lot of damage.
The former Knights player was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2013, and a year ago the Mark Hughes Foundation was born. Its signature event is Wear a Beanie for Brain Cancer Week. The campaign's sure to be boosted this year by such high-profile attention.
And we're really hopeful of getting more schools, more businesses involved. And it's great fun. Whack a beanie on, keep warm and raise some money for our foundations.
It'll take place from July 20 to 24, just one of the many projects on the go for Mark Hughes. So far, his foundation has raised $300,000. It's established a biobank at HMRI and is now aiming to fund grants for researchers and employ a brain cancer care coordinator.
We're going to continue to make sure that the awareness and the funds are raised so that when people get this disease, there's better outcomes.
Beau Scott hasn't played since limping off against the Dragons in round 5, and the Knights haven't won a game since. Today, Newcastle fans received the news they've been waiting for.
Yeah, he'll play this week, which is great to get Bo back. Obviously, it was a big influence in our first couple of wins, and getting him back will be a good boost for the boys.
Hard watching the boys go around, especially when we're losing like we were. So, it'll be good to get back on the field and do my part.
The Knights rep players will return to full training later this week with no major injury concerns. Jared Mullen is also expected back in a few days.
Look, he's had a bit of a toe problem in the last couple of weeks. He got a little jab of cortisone in it Friday, I think, so he's going to have a couple of days off, but he'll be right by the end of the week.
Kurt Gidley was at training today, but the club wouldn't confirm reports the skipper is on the verge of a deal with Warrington in the English Super League starting in 2016. There are also reports BJ Leilua will ask to be released from his contract to join the Raiders next season.
He hasn't asked for a release. He hasn't spoke to us about leaving the club at this stage. There's a bit of speculation about it, but at this stage, mate, we haven't crossed that bridge at all.
Sunday's clash with Manly is scheduled to be played at Brookvale Oval, where the Knights will face former prop Willie Mason for the first time.
I think Mason's pretty fired up for most games. I don't think anything changes. No doubt he'll talk himself up about a good game, and that's great. We're looking forward to playing Mace for sure.
I just have to keep sort of putting in the work and performing here at camp, and hopefully I get a call up.
Coming off a big win like that we've, third time lucky for us in Townsville, and, obviously putting the green and gold back on after having a couple of years break from it with a back injury, it's been really good.
Arriving with wife Brooke and his two daughters, Kurt Gidley announced his long NRL career with Newcastle is coming to an end.
I'll be finishing up at the end of this year and moving me and my family to England and signed a deal with the Warrington Wolves.
The skipper admits he was disappointed word got out before he had the chance to tell his teammates. Now that he has, the the reality of the one-year deal in the English Super League is beginning to sink in.
Every day I'm one step closer to my last training session, last game, and this club has meant the world to me. It's been the majority of my life.
Reflecting on his time in Newcastle, Kurt revealed it was the likes of Danny Badiris and Andrew Johns who shaped the player he's become.
He'd take me on his days off and take me down to Townsend Oval or a park and improve me and want to make me a better player, and I'll be always grateful for that. And then, Joey had to retire with his injury and Bedsy stepped up and his leadership just went through the roof.
Gidley debuted 14 years ago and went on to become a crowd favourite, whether playing for his club, country or state. The 32-year-old says he's always tried to live by the words of original Knights coach Alan McMahon, be the player others want to play with.
If anyone's lived by that credo better than Kurt, well, I haven't met him in this club.
I've never been the strongest. I've never been the fastest. But I've always tried my best. And I pride myself on that.
It was a love for his club that helped Kurt decide to move on, rather than see the Knights risk losing the likes of the Matautia brothers.
He said, I want to hand the baton over to these guys, so whatever you do everything in your power to hold on to these guys. And we've been fortunate enough to do that at this stage, so that was an indication of the type of person he is.
Gidley doesn't want the rest of the season to be all about him, but he's happy if his departure inspires his teammates to aim higher.
Hopefully my best Newcastle Knights moment is yet to come.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's a heartbreaking scene. A 24-metre gum tree crushed part of this Madawi home, practically cutting it in two. A sleeping 6-year-old boy was lucky to escape when the ceiling of his room caved in. Most of the remaining 300 SES jobs like this one require specialist equipment to remove large trees.
Taking a long time, taking its toll on us, and the jobs are, every job's a big job.
This team of 9 arborists has travelled from Queensland.
We've come down from the Gold Coast. We're expecting to be here for a month. The staff definitely says, how long are we going to be here for? And I say, well, look, how long's a bit of string?
Meanwhile, mountains of debris and wood chips from Newcastle's CBD are piling up at Honeysuckle. They'll be shifted to Summerhill and eventually go to mine sites for land rehabilitation. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
For the last fortnight, more than 100 people have been cut off from the rest of the Hunter. When the cyclonic storm swept through, a torrent of water destroyed the Torryburn Bridge.
This was the tallest bridge in the Dungog Shire. It spanned approximately 60 metres and it was 30 metres above the river.
Fortunately, one local came up with a unique way to get fresh supplies.
So he took his bow and arrow and he shot a piece of string across, and then they've actually brought a piece of stainless steel wire across as well and hooked it up to the Telstra pole.
Residents are now relying on emergency crews, relatives and even work colleagues for life's essentials.
Just came out, one of my team members here is stuck over at Torryburn, so we've just loaded up and sent some stuff over on the Flying Fox for him.
Along with a few creature comforts. NBN News today made use of the Flying Fox to speak to Craig Gardner, who says patience is wearing thin with people's livelihoods on the line.
It's just that it's getting a bit long in the tooth now to be able to get out. Some people have made it out during the drier weather, but now that the rain came back again, those that are in here, we're still stuck.
Everybody else, are able to get on with their lives, and at the moment we're stuck and we can't. So it feels like we're forgotten.
Residents say they're devastated. It could be another 3 weeks before they can leave their properties, while council works to convert Clements Road to a bypass road. The road will stretch 2.7 kilometres and cut through 4 properties, while it's expected to take up to 2 years to replace the bridge. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
Just 10 metres or less currently separates the rail corridor and Hunter Street. But if light rail runs down Hunter Street, it will cost taxpayers $100 million more. According to Newcastle architect Ed Duke, it'll also create problems.
You're probably going to finish up with a system that's very slow. It's going to disrupt traffic that's there now. It's probably going to take out most of the car parking in Hunter Street.
Labor MP Tim Crackenthorpe agrees, saying traffic will get worse in Newcastle, not better, and the Wickham interchange will cause extensive traffic congestion.
It makes a whole lot of sense for the government to leave the light rail in the corridor. They could achieve light rail running in the corridor within months.
Railway Stalemate, a new institute forum, is being held next Wednesday. The think tank believes there are members of major parties and business groups who remain silent but don't agree with the government's preferred Hunter Street route.
And the theory behind that is if you object too much to what's going on, particularly for the Liberals, we'll get nothing. So there's a real quandary for people not expressing their views fully.
Save Our Rail takes on the government in court in July over the closure of the line. In the meantime, it's calling for more detailed plans of proposed development along the rail corridor, while also arguing against the Hunter Street option.
The document 71, which was a Transport for New South Wales advice to the Cabinet in December 2013, provided that building a tram in Hunter Street was a bad option, not only for transport purposes but also for urban renewal purposes.
The government says the Wickham interchange will be complete by the end of next year. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Less than 4 years ago, the Broadmeadow track was nobody's favourite.
I was told Darren Beeman complained about the 1980s, and that's how long it goes back. But it's just gradually got worse and worse, and it's got to the stage now where it really needs something drastically done to it.
Since then, a new curator has turned things around and jockeys are singing its praises.
The straight's a whole lot better. It was quite undulating before, but now it's a lot flatter track, and horses aren't wandering around as much. So it's an improving track.
Despite the recent torrential rain, the NJC's course proper has held up well.
We got through 6 races on Saturday, despite receiving 600 mils of rain for the month of April, which is just amazing.
With the bee grass now completely replaced, the plan to re-turf the main track will go ahead in October, despite the current surface coping well.
I've got absolutely no doubt that what we'll end up with will be a world-class track, and despite the current one performing very well, the new track will be twice as good.
As the century-old track prepares to host its last spring carnival, the NJC has announced it will move the meeting from a Wednesday-Thursday to Friday and Saturday.
We'll push all 4 of our Group 3 races into the Friday, so the Cameron Handicap, the Spring Stakes, our Newcastle Cup and the Tibby, they'll all be on Friday. It'll be a terrific day's racing, and we'll back up with a Ladies' Day themed race day on the Saturday.
I'm always looking forward to racing James. We sure have our ups and downs and our love-hate relationship that we have going on.
If you know anything about Supercross, me and Chad don't get along that great. That's why I'm not really looking forward to it, because I know I can't hit him. I might not get out there building alive.
Cameron Allen may only be in Year 11, but he's already got a head start on others his own age. The St Francis Xavier College student hopes to fast-track a career in hospitality by beginning his training while still at school.
These are more professional kitchens, so it's gonna definitely impact that.
So yeah, if we do get into the hospitality industry, we're going to have that experience in the Better Kitchen.
Those behind the trade training centres like this one at Hamilton hope they'll go some way towards addressing the hunters' ongoing skill shortage.
The skill shortage has never eased in the sense that the economy is always changing, so the sort of skills that are required can change over time.
The centre is one of 5 across Newcastle's Catholic schools that offer vocational education courses, and already the results have been positive.
We were one of the first dioceses in New South Wales to have facilities in all of our schools, and we've certainly noticed that the retention through to Year 12 has improved through that.
The aspiration is to make Newcastle a global city. That's what this is all about ultimately. And part of it is equipping kids with the right qualifications to tackle the future.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
I was obviously sad and a bit emotional when I come to the realisation that this would be my last year at the Newcastle Knights, but I feel it's more relief now than anything that I've come to terms with it.
Beachside, Newcastle. The property market here is red hot, and according to the experts, it's about to get even hotter.
We're achieving a level of business confidence in the city now that we haven't seen for about 10 years. And so we've got great demand at the moment for high-end lifestyle properties, especially the properties along the beach.
Multi-million-dollar mansions like Andrew Johns' previous home are being bought and torn down.
Because most of the properties there are of some age now, we're seeing a lot of redevelopment in those areas, and that means big dollars.
Record low interest rates and a housing shortage is tipped to see house prices rise by a further 8% over the next 12 months. And that will put the median house price in Newcastle ahead of those in Brisbane, Hobart and Adelaide.
The median price in Sydney has now burst through the 900,000 mark, which is extraordinary from where it was a few years ago. And we're just up the road, we're almost a northern suburb of Sydney. So I think you'll find that while Sydney continues to grow, so will Newcastle.
But the coastal boom is causing some growing pains. A proposal to build on this battle axe block at Bar Beach is being opposed by 10 neighbours. A Land and Environment Court hearing begins tomorrow after Newcastle Council knocked back developer Bruce McFarlane's application to construct a 2-storey home. Residents today slammed council for opting not to be present at the hearing.
The council is just saying we are not bothering to defend our determination. We're not standing up for our convictions, and by the way, we just don't want to spend the money to defend our decisions in the Land and Environment Court. It makes a mockery of their development application system.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
turning the sod on $1 billion investment. More than a decade after Australia first signed up to receive the Joint Strike Fighter, work to accommodate it has begun at RAF Base Williamtown. Defence Minister Kevin Andrews was on hand to do the honours, marking the start of moves he says will shore up the jet's arrival in late 2018.
We have to have the facilities on the ground, we have to have the hangars, we have to have the tarmac, we have to have the training facilities, we have to have the simulators.
The F-35A will eventually replace the ageing FA-18 Hornet. With a price tag upwards of $95 million each, the cutting-edge aircraft is set to become the country's most expensive defence asset.
This is a new generation aircraft, and so those facilities are definitely needed.
It's more than 20 years since the Williamtown base has seen development on this scale, and with the Joint Strike Fighters already rolling off the production line in the US, it's a race to ensure the new facilities are up and running in time for their first flight down under.
Our first pilot is actually over there flying the aircraft right now, and having the facilities ready to catch these wonderful new aircraft and the systems makes the women and men of Air Combat Group pretty excited.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Makeup, hair, manicures and pedicures, a one-stop glamour shop for men and women whose lives have been touched by cancer. For mother of three, Deb Sadler, today was all about having some much-needed me time.
Just having some time out just to be pampered and, just enjoy it. I'm here with my mum, so my dad's volunteering today, so it's a really nice, special day.
And helping them look and feel their best, 99 beauty specialists, all donating their services. For some guests, it was a chance to try a new look.
And it's good here. Everyone smiles. It's really nice. And I got my good friend next to me, Sue, who's in our support group. So I'm being straightened and she's having her hair curled.
Foster carer Linda Smith was so excited she arrived an hour and a half early. With her house badly damaged by the recent storms, this year's event meant even more.
I do this every year and it's magical. I couldn't have asked for a better day.
120 guests, 120 patients and carers given a special day.
It just makes an enormous difference. When people come in here, they might be feeling a little unwell, and then every single person who goes out the door is absolutely glamorous and feeling really happy and really special.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Last weekend saw the Jets youth get off the mark, much to the relief of their new coach.
We spoke about the need to win games as well as develop as players and play a good brand of football, so it was nice to win, yeah.
After 2 seasons in charge of the W League Jets, Peter McGuinness was brought in to replace James Pascoe following his call-up to be Phil Stubben's assistant. McGuinness's time working with the emerging Jets has made the transition to the youth ranks easier.
This is one of the benefits of the curriculum, though, with the coaching through the youth ranks from the emerging Jets right through to the youth team. There's a system of play with the curriculum, and a lot of those guys in that youth team have been involved through that curriculum.
One player who impressed against the Bears was Nick Calburn.
Nick's come back into training and played and been fantastic, can't fault his attitude, good young player. He's versatile, he play anywhere across the back. He's good to work with.
Michael Kane, NBN News. For the first time in the club's history, the Hurricanes have made the business end of the season.
To finally pull through with a finals berth, it's exciting for the club.
It's been a remarkable turnaround for the Brett Arnold coached men's team. In 2014, the Hurricanes won only 4 games from 22, finishing in last place. This season, 13 wins has them daring to dream.
At the very beginning, it was tough for us to mesh just because we hadn't been playing too long together. But once the middle of the season got going, we had that 10-game win streak, and ever since then, we've been on our high horse.
The side plays the Brisbane Barracudas in the elimination semi in Sydney on Friday, and despite not having beaten the Queenslanders this year, the Hurricanes are quietly confident.
We played them up in their home pool, and they've definitely got advantages up there, which is, it's what you expect. But yeah, coming down in Sydney, it's a whole different ball game.
Import Nikola Vavic hopes he can continue his good form as he looks to claim a spot in the American national team.
I'm going back, training with the national team and hopefully trying to get a spot on that squad. They go to Europe in a couple weeks, so hopefully if I can do what I got to do, I'll be with them.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
I think it's really more about the feeling of the team coming back together here and the support that we have, and that's going to basically, they're going to mesh together again in Lisbon.
Will your client be defending the charges?
Well, he's pleaded not guilty today, but I'm not prepared to say anything further. Thank you.
Why doesn't he have to appear in person? Do you think that he should be appearing?
There's no doubt Tyrone Gilkes was a rising star, breaking his first freestyle motocross world record aged just 11. At 19 was on his way to breaking another when things went horribly wrong in March 2013. Tyrone was practicing at Maitland Showground ahead of his attempt to jump 100 metres when he crashed into what's called the knuckle on the top of the landing ramp, suffering fatal injuries. 2 years on, and an inquest into his death at Newcastle Coroner's Court today heard evidence that he simply wasn't riding fast enough to clear the jump. Senior Constable Martin Raywinkle said the teenager was travelling at 111 kilometres per hour when his motorbike left the launch ramp, 3 kilometres short of the 114 needed to make the jump safely. Several theories were presented to the coroner about what could have affected Tyrone's speed. They included a bend and hump in the track, the slight misalignment of the ramps, the unknown impact of crosswinds, and the use of a knobbly tyre on the back of his bike, which may not have been ideal for a cement section of the track. Tyrone's parents Rebecca and Kevin Gilks chose to leave the court while a video was played of his fateful jump. Magistrate Michael Barnes took the unusual step of asking witnesses to review the footage and come up with an agreed set of facts rather than having them questioned on the stand, saying that the footage provided non-controversial evidence. The inquest continues in July. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
It's an all too common sight on Hunter roads, and that has the NRMA worried.
That safer roads equals more lives saved, less accidents.
The peak motoring body today released a report showing councils across the state are facing a repair backlog worth $3.2 billion.
So NRMA is asking the federal government to give us a greater proportion of the fuel excise. $15 billion collected annually, and about 1/3 of that historically goes back into roads.
The Hunter tally also makes for grim reading. Cessnock requires $9.5 million, Newcastle $17 million and Maitland $67 million, while Lake Macquarie tops the list with a staggering $93 million. Councillor Barney Langford believes those figures are dated, saying council has brought it down to around $24 million.
As part of the rate rise process that we went through several years ago, we have in place a process for managing that backlog.
The NRMA stats, meanwhile, don't factor in last month's storms. Mount Sugarloaf just one place that took a heavy hit. A landslide beneath the only road that leads in and out has seen it closed until further notice. Michael Kane, NBN News. While they're celebrating 50 years of helping others through the Red Shield appeal, the Salvos aren't slowing down.
This year, the Salvation Army will help in excess of 1 million people throughout Australia, both physically, emotionally and spiritually.
The organisation also in its 150th year continues to work with the most marginalised and disadvantaged people in Australia. Today's proceedings coincided with the launch of this year's Red Shield appeal, which helps raise money for the Salvo's array of services.
We want to help the least and last of society, those that are doing it really tough. We want to be able to give them hope, and the Salvation Army's Red Shield appeal helps us to do that.
Paul Watson's son was addicted to the drug ice. He says the Salvos were there every step of the way.
Well, in the beginning it was drug and alcohol counselling for Paul when we were struggling to deal with it. Normal parenting wouldn't work anymore and we just didn't have any answers.
Thank God for the Salvos?
Thank God for the Salvos, because I don't know how we would have got through this without their help.
The Red Shield door knock takes place at the end of the month. Michael Kane, NBN News.
Back in Knights colours, Newcastle's rep players admit the break from club footy came at the right time. Having scored for country on Sunday, a refreshed Akila Uwate is now eyeing a Blues jumper.
I've been just working hard on my little things that I need to improve on, and hopefully selection come and I'm ready to play Origin again.
James McManus has always been a big supporter of the annual City-Country clash.
Regardless of what it means for Origin selection or anything like that, it's really big for the country. It's really important for the people out there.
The winger hopes he's done enough to retain his place in Laurie Daly's New South Wales side.
If he gives me the nod again, then I'll do another job for him. But we've got a job to do here. We're coming off the back of 4 losses, and we're pretty pumped to try and fix that.
With Kurt Gidley announcing he'll continue his career in the UK in 2016, his current teammates are hoping to make his last season a memorable one.
Personally, I know I'm probably going to miss him at the club, but I'm happy for him and his family that he's made that decision, and I know how much he's looking forward to it at the end of the year.
The NRL has confirmed the Brookvale Oval surface is suitable to host Sunday's clash with Manly after being out of action for more than a month. The Knights say they're more concerned with the resurgent Sea Eagles lineup.
Manly, they've got quality players, I think Jamie Lyon's back this week too, and their captain obviously, so they're going to be hard to beat, but it's time for us to get fair income with our season as well.
Meanwhile, coach Rick Stone says Jared Mullen is a 50-50 chance of playing as he continues to battle a toe injury. With 3 months between races, Matt Hall has had plenty of time to appreciate the comforts of home, but he wasn't immune to the impact of last month's storms.
Just when we thought we were ahead of the game with 2 weeks till we head off to the race, there's a little bit of things to take care of, but all in all, they're small problems compared to what other people deal with.
At round 1 in Abu Dhabi, the Merewether pilot was on the verge of his maiden victory, only to be edged out by 0.08 of a second. Hall knows there are things he could have done differently, but he's not dwelling on the result.
Better to be second and know you can do better than come last because you blew it trying too hard.
This Saturday, he'll head to Tokyo for the first air race ever to be held in Japan, on a course that's likely to produce speeds of up to 400 kilometres an hour.
So it's going to be a bit of a drag race. It's not as technical as some tracks have been, but the big gotcha on this track's going to be the potential for pulling too much G and getting disqualified for an over G.